Hey everyone, it's Cashew. Today's adventure brings us to Point Pleasant, Ohio. We're going to visit Grant's birthplace. It's usually closed for the season, but I made a phone call and they're going to give me a private tour, so that'll be fun. And then afterwards, we'll drive down to Georgetown, Ohio to visit his schoolhouse and his childhood home. Now those places will probably be closed too for the season, but we can at least take a walk around and see what the place looks like, and maybe we can look in the windows. So without further ado, our story starts here. And here we're coming upon the Grant Memorial Bridge. And you can see the cannons, the beacon, and the stonework. This was all part of the original bridge. Okay, let's go check out the house. And I'll take you around the outside of the house as well.
So the rooms we're standing in now were added sometime between 1823 and 1864. So the house was originally a one-room frame cottage, built sometime between 1817 and 1821. Grant worked for a fellow by the name of not Lee Thompson, but Thomas Page. Page happened to be an abolitionist. He owned a tannery also in Bethel, Ohio, and hired Jesse, an experienced tanner, to operate the tannery here in Point Pleasant. And it was Page who introduced young Jesse Grant to 19-year-old Hannah Simpson, who grew up on a farm just west of Bethel. They married in June of 1821, shortly after they had met. And on April 27th, 1822, their firstborn son, who they christened later Hiram Ulysses Grant, was born in the room we're about ready to walk into. Most of the pieces here are period pieces. We have a couple items in the room that have Grant provenance. The corner cupboard there was a gift to the newlyweds from the Simpson side of the family. So it's the only piece of furniture that was in the cottage when the Grants were here. Jesse Grant was fortunate enough to land an apprenticeship in a tannery in Deerfield, Ohio, in northern Ohio. The tannery was operated by a gentleman by the name of Owen Brown, who happened to be vehemently anti-slavery. He was an abolitionist, as was his son, the famous, or some say infamous, John Brown. So the father of Ulysses S. Grant, Jesse Grant, spent 2 years in the same household of the radical abolitionist John Brown, and Jesse Grant was an admirer.
And here's the one-room house that Grant was born in. Now all the furniture is period related, but there are a few original items that were actually owned by the Grants. This cupboard was owned by Grant's parents. And this is a leather-bound chest that Grant's father owned. And this pillowcase belonged to Grant's sister Mary. And the nightgown on the right and the shawl beside it was owned by Grant's mother. And I was told this is called a mammy's rocker because the mother could sit on the right and then lay the baby down on the left. These items were not owned by Grant, but they are from the period. And if you've seen my blog on the Kentucky Wool Festival, you saw these spinning wheels. They were just a lot smaller. This room is an addition added on to the house in the 1800s. They're not sure when. And this part houses some of the artifacts owned by Grant. This is a strong box that was owned by Grant during his presidency. And this was Grant's wallet. And these are the kid gloves that he wore during his first inaugural ball in 1869. I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is an onyx locket that contains locks of Grant's hair. And here's Grant's signature. How cool is that? And this is Grant's boyhood home in Georgetown, Ohio. It's currently closed for the season, but I thought since we're this close, I wanted to show it to you and then show you his schoolhouse. This was Grant's home from ages 1 to 17. At age 17, he left for West Point. Grant was also known for being very talented with handling and riding horses at a very young age. It's said that when his father owned the Tannery across the street from this house, he would swing on their tails and crawl under the horses' bellies. It's been said that at a young age, Grant was a very gifted horse trainer and rider, and it certainly helped him during the Civil War. It's said that even in the heaviest of battles, he would remain calm riding on his horse. When Grant became president at age 47, he was unable to ride like he did in his younger days. And there's a story about when he became president, he would ride his carriage above the speed limit through the streets, and a policeman had pulled him over, and when he discovered it was Grant, he was going to let him go. But Grant made the policeman fulfill his duty and give him the $20 fine and impound the carriage. And Grant had to walk back to the White House. Grant's love of horses remained throughout his life, and when he died, his casket was pulled to the cemetery in New York by 24 black horses. Sadly, Grant never returned to Georgetown after he left for West Point at age 17. I'll hold my camera up to the windows and see if we can see inside. And here on the top of the monument shows Father Time walking. It says, "Grow old along with me, the best is yet to be." Well, that's a bummer. Maybe I'll come back in May and we can see what the inside looks like. But while we still have some daylight, let's go take a look at his schoolhouse. This is the schoolhouse of U.S. Grant. And again, he was in Georgetown from age 1 till 17 when he went to West Point. And so here's the inside of the schoolhouse. You can see at least a little bit of it. I'll try to get a closer shot in just a minute. Terms only lasted for 13 weeks during the winter. The rest of the year, the children would work on the family's farm, or in Grant's case, his father's tannery. Okay, so before we leave Georgetown, there's one more thing I want to show you. And this looks really nice, this statue of Grant surrounded by the Christmas lights. This is really a very quaint, beautiful town. It's pretty incredible to think that U.S. Grant was born in that house. I mean, this was the man who was president of the United States. He was a general in the Civil War. He sat down with Lee and Appomattox, and he knew Lincoln. If you like this video, smash that subscribe button like a boss, and be sure to click the bell icon that will notify you when I have a new video out. Until next time, this is Cashew, signing off.